Casting metal moulding boxes. Part 8. Pin slots and sliding fit holes. In the last episode of this series we fitted the pins into the boxes where the pins are to be held tightly. In this part of the series we're going to drill the holes and cut the slots in the mating box halves where the pins have to still be accurate, we hope, but they're going to slide fairly nicely. The first thing we have to do is decide where we're going to drill a hole and where we're going to cut a slot. Now, it's always hole and opposite it a slot. Hole and opposite a slot. And again, this box. Hole, slot, hole, slot. Now note, I've actually stamped the boxes up here, in this case with an H for hole, and on the other boxes where the pins are fixed I've stamped a little F, and I am as usual drilling from the one side of the box in all cases, the gate side as it happens. That's just convenience, but it is a convenience that's proven to be, you know, reasonable to do. Okay, so first of all, for the ones where the hole goes, I'm going to start off in exactly the same way I started off with the pins for the fixed boxes. I'm going to drill a hole and I'm going to ream it. And I'm not quite going to do that with the slot because I want the slot to come a little bit closer to the side of the box. So I'm going to pack in here, loosen these bolts, pack in there as far as I can get this jig over towards the box, because I do need the slot a little closer to there. I'll go ahead and do this drilling off camera because you've seen it before. The only thing I will do different is that, following the advice of the other person who did a video that I gave a link to in the description of the last video, I'm going to drill and ream at the one speed, so I don't have to go through this terrible trauma of changing the speeds on the drill press every time I drill and every time I ream a hole, because that really was a pain. I believe the drilling will be slower, but we'll see how it goes. Now, also a commenter mentioned that, and I'm grateful to him too. His name escapes me for the moment. Sorry, my friend. But all right, I'll go ahead and set this up, drill these holes, and we'll see what happens. Having done the holes that will eventually become the loose fit for the pins, we now need to do the holes that are going to be the base of the slot that will go here. Now, in order to get the slot fairly close to here, I've moved this jig plate over by packing it here by about 1/8 of an inch. So other than that, this is exactly the same as all the hole drilling you've already seen. So I'll probably just skip to the end here. Drilling and reaming at the same slow speed was much quicker overall, as it avoided the bothersome and time-consuming fiddling with drive belts to change speeds twice for each hole. I recommend using this same speed, 450 RPM, for both drilling and reaming.
The next thing we have to do is open out the round holes, the ones that remain round as distinct from the slots, to a clearance on the pins that are come down from the fixed box. Now, I can't show you this because I've actually already done it. I had a camera failure. If we compare them to a hole that's just been left from the 12mm fixed reamer, which I'll show and demonstrate in a minute as soon as I get the rubbish out of it, you can see this hole is quite tight. Compare it with one of the holes that I've now put the adjustable reamer through to open it out a little. You see it drops straight through. And we do have a little bit of clearance there, not much. They may prove to be a bit tight, but if they are, we can easily put the fixed reamer through again and open them out. And there again, there's another one that's been done, and as you can see, it's just a sliding fit. What I can also show, though, is reaming a hole on a dud casting here that I've been using for practice. Here is our fixed reamer. Put it in a handle of a sort, tapping handle. The usual WD-40. With luck. Just slip it in, put it in, and very carefully, without pushing it down, I'm just letting it go down under its own weight, basically, and I'm being careful to try and keep it straight with the hole. Eventually, when it gets a little bit further down into the hole, like it is now, it'll guide itself pretty much. Yeah, it's guiding itself now. And it'll do that until it runs out of the top hole and starts properly in the bottom hole. Now it's in the bottom hole and out of the guidance of the top, so I've got to be a bit careful again. It's guiding in the bottom hole now. Just gently as it, and let it go down under its own weight. Right. That's one. Now, if I push a bit of rag through to clean the swarf out of the hole. And the other one too while I'm at it. If I've done it right and if the holes are clean, the pins should now just drop through. There we go, look at that, beautiful. Straight through. Now the next thing we have to do is mark out where we've got to cut some material out of here for the slot, because I'm going to cut the bulk of it out. I'm going to use a bandsaw. I guess you can use a hacksaw, whatever turns you on, but I've got a bandsaw, so I'm going to use it. So first of all, I put a bit of texture where I want the marks. Then I put a pin in the hole. Remember, this is still a tight hole, so the pin will sit in there quite tightly. Then just push that ruler up against the side of the box here and against the pin and scribe a line. Do the same the other side. That's one. Up against the edge of the box and against the pin, scribe line. Up against the edge of the box and the pin and scribe line. Now, I'll go and bandsaw those and I'll cut them so that they're just inside. The cuts are just inside the line. So I'll get rid of the bulk of the material, but not all of it. Done. We now come to what I regard as the hardest part of this whole exercise, and that is filing the slots. This is not an easy job, and it takes quite a bit of time, and you need to be a bit patient with it. So first thing I'm going to do is mark the area I've got to file, just with a bit of texture. This might help me file it evenly, we'll see. Now, I've got a pretty coarse file here, and away we go. And this is just slow business, slowly, slowly, slowly. Try and keep it even. Don't go at it like a bull at a gate, because if you do, you'll overdo it. Now, you can sometimes feel the file start to pick up, in which case just stop, give it a bit of a rub, either with your finger, or if you've got a file card or a wire brush, use that. That's better. Every now and then,
Get down and have a bit of a look through to see that you're not belling it, opening it out at one end or the other. I'm opening it a little bit at the front, so I'll concentrate a bit more on the back, I think, and remark the texture. Much easier to put on now it's a bit smoother. What I'll do at this stage, I'll turn the box over and do the other side of the slot for a bit. Right, now that I've got it a bit smoother, back with the texture. Some die chem would be nice if I had some, but I don't. Okay, now as I'm going, I'll pick up my 11.5mm drill and just try it. No, nowhere near it yet. No. Just try it both ends of the slot. Nowhere near it. So I've got a fair bit to go yet. There we go. Now, that is the 11.5. Now I happen to have this drill, which is an 11.8, and that won't go in yet. I've now got the 11.8 through, but you can see the 12mm pin will not go through yet. So we are getting very close. We're a maximum of 0.08 of an inch, or 0.2mm. Now I'm going to put the file aside and go over to this, which is a bit of abrasive paper, two different grades. That's about 120 and that's about 180, 240. It's just stuck on a piece of aluminium. And now we'll delicately use this to open it out the rest of the way. Closer, but not there yet. So that's getting very, very close now. Yeah, look at that. The pin's in. And there's a little bit of clearance there. There's not too much on the front here. I'll now swap to this finer paper just to clean them up. And I'll concentrate on the front here because I know that's the tight spot. How are we going? That's getting pretty damn good. Just a little bit of a clean up on the other side here. A little bit of a clean up here. Not much, just to smooth them out a bit. There we go. There's a little bit of slop there, you can hear it. But that's okay, that's about what we want. There's not very much. I think that'll be good. Again, if it proves to be too tight, we can sand a bit more off later when we try the boxes properly. But I think that slot will be good. Now, there's no way knowing I'm going to cut 4 slots like that. I just don't have the patience or the strength to do that. I will demonstrate at least one and hopefully 2 more ways of doing it, but they will violate the no machine tools principle, but they will cut a nice slot. This is one of the alternative methods of cutting these slots. It is in fact the method I used on my 6x8 inch boxes that I've been using, I don't know, for 40, 45 years or something. It's a fairly slow method, and it's not exactly easy to get the slot exactly the right width. It's very easy to go overboard, but we'll give it a bit of a go and see if I can do it. Now, the first thing we've got to do is get the slitting saw lined up with the holes. So what I'll do, I'll put a pin in as usual. I'll very delicately make certain that the pin and the cutter are square. That's not quite right. Now I've got some eyepieces on here so I can sort of see what I'm doing a bit better. That's not too bad. That one looks pretty good for that side of the slot. So I'll pull the pin out. We're away to do it. Now, how much too narrow? Hopefully, and not too wide. Quick word about the setup here. Homemade arbor there that I clamped an 1/8 inch slitting wheel, for want of a better word, to. I've taken off the tool post and bolted on an angle plate. I've squared the angle plate up to the direction of the bed of the lathe, and it's just held on with G-clamps. And I've got some props under the part here to make certain it sits level. Try our 12mm pin. That's pretty good, I think. This is another of the ways of cutting the slots. I've previously run the milling cutter along that face and that face there so that the two of them are dead lined up, and I haven't moved the cutter in the Y direction on this mill so that the cutter is still lined up with those faces. Now what I do, I put the box side with a pin in it. I push it up against this piece of steel here so that it's got some good support for when I drive the pin out. Hold the pin against the two blocks that I've machined. Lock it in place eventually, and now tap the pin out. Right. Oops. And now we'll run the cutter through. Now this is a CNC mill, but I'm using it in manual mode. Now all cutters will usually cut a smidgen over their actual size, so that's a 12mm cutter. So it should, with a little bit of luck, just cuts fractionally over the 12, which is where we want it. All right, that's the job done. Now, let's see what we've got here. Just a little bit of slop. May not be enough actually, but well, I don't know, it's close. There's a little bit of slop there. That pin's quite nice and loose, and that's good. There is, of course, an entire other way of doing this, that you can sit the box up on edge, locate the hole to get the box located properly, and then just use a cutter going in that way. And I did that, in fact, on the boxes that I've been using for about the last 30 odd years, because I didn't have this mill then, but I did have another vertical mill. Well, that should be right. We should have those. Well, that's looking good.
But does it all fit together?
Now all the pins have been put in place, the holes and slots have been drilled and reamed and filed. The big question, of course, is do the boxes actually fit together? Or are they going to be sticky, or who knows? Let's find out. The big one first. Beautiful. Look at that. Absolutely magnificent. Could not be better. The little fella here. Beautiful. Absolutely magnificent. And we wind up with a box with a little bit of rock in that box. A little bit. But considering... no real rock in that one. Considering that these faces are unmachined, that's probably pretty amazing. I couldn't really have hoped for it to turn out any better than that. My only disappointment, perhaps, is that the angles here didn't quite come out at 45 degrees. I don't know whether they're at 45 on the pattern, it's too hard to measure, but as near as I can figure here, each side is somewhere between a half and a quarter of a degree out. I don't know why. Maybe it's just a problem with 3D prints, but I'm not sure, and that is a bit disappointing, and it really means that to get it right, dead right, you'd have to machine those faces in there at 45 degrees. But if you're careful when you're putting them together and you do the bolts up progressively, working around, and check with a square that these are right, you know, you'll wind up with something that's not bad. Now, that box, it's not a perfect fit there, but gee, you know, it's not bad. You know, it really is quite reasonable, and the same with this one. That's a pretty reasonable fit. Not perfect. But considering again that we're dealing with unmachined things, I think that's pretty amazing. Now, sometimes the pins get a bit sticky, and that happens with age sometimes. And it's usually that the pins will get a little bit of rust or grit or dirt or something on them. Now, they're quite resistant to rusting, because although they're not a stainless steel, they're a hardened steel, and hardened steels resist rust surprisingly well, really. Now, this box is one of the older ones. It's a little sticky. So when I get faced with that, what I do, I get a bit of fine abrasive paper, perhaps, you know, about 240 grit, and I just very quickly rub the pin. Not much. Could possibly use a coarse steel wool to do this too. Then the other thing I might do, a round tube of the same sort of abrasive paper, just push it in the hole and give it a quick twist, just to clean the hole out. Now, if it's still sticky, a bit of graphite on a rag. Quick wipe on both pins. And we will just poke the pin through the hole, poke the rag through the hole, and give the slot a bit of a wipe too. And that should do it. We should have now a reasonable fit. I find that I need the pin hole on my right hand side because my right hand's dominant, and the slot on the left. That seems to work best for me. Up Davey, let's get it now. Now it's beautiful. Now, I have actually checked the slop on these boxes with a dial indicator, you know, the sideways slop. You can hear it. But it actually measures only about 2/1000 of an inch. There it is again. Virtually nothing on the end with the hole. So that's it. The boxes are done and finished. The final video in this series, assuming it is the final, will be on why I claim that these boxes are a particularly versatile box, well suited to the hobbyist. That will be a few weeks away yet. Thank you.